Hey, it's Gil from
The Mind Podcast.
today's Mind Culture and Social Podcast. And you're listening to Pods Like Us.
Hello and welcome to Pods Like Us. I'm Martin Quibell, known to my friends as Marv, and this time I'm talking with Nick Bonsky, Rob Reed, and Just Joe from Keeping Up with the Cardassians. No, yes, that's correct. Keeping Up with the Cardassians. How are you guys?
We are great. We're really excited to be chatting with you today, and I can't remember the last time I've talked to someone cross-Atlantic. This is exciting.
Wow. You could do a crossover with one of the other Star Trek related shows, I suppose.
Yeah, that's true.
That'd be extreme meta.
Yeah.
There's some really great other Star Trek shows out there.
Yeah, there really are.
Yeah.
Really are.
Spotlight is good. They're nice guys,
I
if you know
haven't listened
them.
to that. No.
I like the name.
Yes, absolutely. Me too. They're going through everything. They started going through the movies and then they're going through the series as well then, bit by bit.
So they go in
All of them.
chronological order. So they go movies,
Yep.
then go... Okay.
Yep, and they've interviewed some of the behind the scenes people as well, like and people who are fans of Star Trek as well. Because I was surprised when they did a show where they interviewed Richard Donner, the director.
Oh, wow.
That's awesome.
That's great.
And he's a huge fan of Star Trek.
Is he?
I
He
did
is.
not know that.
Let's set him up for Star Trek 13, man.
I don't know if that'll be possible.
See that?
Richard Donner? Yeah, didn't he die?
I thought he was doing Lethal Weapon 5.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
Yes.
so
Yes, he is.
not.
Yeah.
Oh,
Nick,
Oh.
you are quick to bury people.
I am quick to bury people. He is, he's 90 years old, though. So,
Yes.
can you blame me?
Are you ageist?
No, but
No. But
You
he
finding
was,
this out
yeah.
on someone else's podcast that you're ageist?
I think so.
But yes, he was saying in the interview that they were doing they had just gone through the first draft of the script for Lethal Weapon 5, and that they've already signed Mel and Danny Glover.
Oh, wow.
For it.
That'll be great.
Mm.
I'll check it out. I always, after a while, though, when they have the sequels one right after the other, right, they kind of lose their luster a little bit. But when they take a long break and then go back to it, I'm more excited about it.
And I think they've got Shane Black involved as well to have a look at it.
Okay.
Should
That's
be interesting.
great.
Yeah, that is a
Yep.
good pick.
Yeah, it is, because he wrote the first one.
Yep.
Yep.
And Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, I think he was part of, which was great too.
Absolutely. Yep. I'm trying to think what else of Shane Black's I've seen that I've really loved.
Did he do Iron Man 3 or something like
He
that?
did an Iron Man.
Does Shane Black's age meet your requirements?
He's good. He did Last Boy Scout.
Ooh, how old is he?
Yes, he
Love
did.
that movie.
Yeah.
He is 59.
Hmm.
Okay, that seems acceptable. Acceptable.
And he was one of the actors in Predator as well.
Yes, the Predator from 2018. He was in that one. He also did one of my favorite Arnold Schwarzenegger movies, Last Action Hero.
That's a great movie.
And
Yes.
most people hate that movie, but I think it's just fantastic.
I love that film. No, Shane
Yeah.
Black was in the original Predator film with
Oh.
with Arnold Schwarzenegger as well.
Oh, was he?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I learned. Oh, yeah, he was.
Yep.
He played Rick Hawkins.
He did, and excuse me for this. He's the one who did the joke about pussy.
Yes.
Yes.
Now I'm going to have to bleep myself out of this.
There you go.
If we get too much for you, just let us know because we might say some things too.
Rob, I just mentally bleep Rob out most of the time.
It's true.
It is true.
Rob leaves himself out
He does.
very well. He has some very good vocal control with words. It's amazing.
He is.
I don't have that control. I do not.
Well, I've got a job and a half. In fact, the one I'm recording next, which will be Saturday evening, I'm actually going to put an advisory on there because I don't think, knowing the guys I'm talking to, I don't think I've got the time to go through and bleep everything out that they'll come out with.
Oh my
It's a full-time job.
Because I'm talking to the guys who do the show Bad Counsel,
Oh, okay.
where people send in, ask for advice about things, and they're a bit straight John Bull, and they'll just come out with it no matter what
That's
their opinion.
fantastic.
Yes,
Oh gosh, that sounds like a fun one to listen to.
It was called Bad Counsel.
Bad Counsel.
Bad Counsel. Yes,
Yeah,
I'm writing that down.
Censoring yourself on the fly is a difficult skill.
that is a difficult skill.
it is. But so I'm not going to bother with their show, with the one I'm doing with them, because I've even got people that have written in questions for advice as well.
Oh yeah, I just looked them up by what you were saying, and their episode titles alone tell me that good luck bleeping out anything.
Yes,
You're not going to have a show if you bleep it out.
absolutely.
Sound
That's
like-
why I'm going to have
yeah,
to just
sound
put
like
the E at
R2D2.
the end.
Yeah.
We've not even started yet. So
Oh, we can stretch it pretty well.
yeah, we can.
We're good at going off topic.
I'm fine with tangents. That's brilliant with me. So what were your individual introductions to podcasting?
Like very first podcast I ever listened to would have been Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum, the guy who played Lex Luthor in Smallville.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. For me, actually, so years ago, I made the decision that I wanted to change my career, and I went into ministry. And when I was going to school, it was a 3-hour car ride each way, and I would go once a week. So I had to find something to fill my time. So I started getting really into podcasts, and I'm a big comic book nerd, big sci-fi nerd. So like any of them that were on, like there was the Game of Thrones one that was on at the time that I was listening to that. I can't remember the name of it, but I know I like Batman on Film. I like that podcast a lot. And, it's so hard for me. My brain, the way it works, I'm not really great at remembering names of podcasts, and I need to do better about that. But I listen to so many. It's hard to keep up with it.
Yeah.
Same here.
See, I started listening to podcasts probably 15 years ago or something.
Wow.
Yeah.
I would listen to mostly poker podcasts.
Really?
Yeah. So they would record these shows. These players they'd do like updates on live events, and they would record, and they'd be a couple hours long, and they talk.
Yeah.
They would just BS with each other, strategy, hands, all poker talk, inside talk, friends, and I just started listening to those over and over, and it was during the poker that poker boom from like the early 2000s.
Yeah.
And after that, I wanted more. I wanted to hear like people having conversations more
Right.
about things that I enjoyed.
Yeah.
Beyond poker. So then that's kind of when podcasting really started to get rolling.
Mm-hmm.
And then like maybe 5 or 6 years after that, it really started to, because there's comedians. Bill Burr has one.
Yeah.
His was one of the first comedians.
Yeah.
That I listened to.
Yeah.
And it was just him basically into at the time his phone.
Mm.
Or it was very primitive,
Right.
Just recording into a room, you could hear echoes and all this kind of stuff. But it was new content from people that you wanted to hear more from.
Yeah.
So They had my interest immediately.
Yeah.
Well, you're definitely not bluffing there.
But
Oh dear, I had to get that joke in, didn't I? So,
Yeah.
so how from going from being listeners to podcast, did you actually start podcasting and get the show off the ground?
so that was a real interesting journey we had there. So basically, Rob and I have known each other now for 10 years, and but we didn't really. Yeah, 10 years. Our kids are now.
Good Lord.
I know, crazy. And we didn't really know each other well. It was more like our wives were friends, and we were dragged to parties, and we would just stand in the corner holding a beer, making wisecracks every here and there. But that was about it. And then we started talking more and more about, mutual shared interests. We both love American football. We both loved Star Trek. So we just kind of started talking about all those things. And then one day, Rob just jokingly said about a year ago, he's like, we should start a podcast because, I had told him Deep Space Nine was one of my least favorite of the Star Trek series, which he's flipping me off right now as I said that. But it was one of my least favorite, and it's his favorite. So he's like, we're going to do a podcast together, and I'm going to change your mind, and we're going to do this. And I think we were kind of joking at first, but whenever you give me an excuse to buy technology, I will go all in on it, and the guys can speak to that. So I went out and I bought a soundboard, and I started buying microphones, and we just started broadcasting. Our very first episode we did was just with a little condenser microphone sitting between us in a garage when it was 30 degrees Fahrenheit outside, and we've just kind of moved from there, and it's been a blast. And then Joe was bored one day, and he just showed up, and we're like, come on. And it was great.
Just a wayward kid from the streets wandering the neighborhood.
Yeah, he needed a charity, and so we took him in. But no, Joe has never seen any Star Trek before.
Which I thought was sacrilegious, so I had to fix that.
Right. And Joe is a friend of Rob. I didn't know Joe really at all. I met him once before we started the podcast. And now because of the podcast, we see each other every week, and we're all becoming good friends because of this. No, we're not, according to Rob. But it's been a really great experience, and very similar to what Joe said about being on, listening to podcasts. Like, how you listen to podcasts because you enjoy the conversations people are having together. Like that's kind of how I feel being a part of it, right? Like it never feels like work doing the editing or making sure all the equipment's working right. It never feels like work because we always leave
don't edit
after.
It's
hey,
warts and all.
Hey, I do some editing here and there. I do. Not anymore. Now that we don't have the keyboard. Anyways, that's a tangent. So we're going to stop right there. But that is kind of how we got into it.
No, it was cute because in the beginning I just thought it was a fun idea. Just Nick and I to do something to get together, something to watch. And I didn't think a bunch of weeks later we'd be buying a $600 soundboard together. I thought basically we just talk about it and goof off and have fun with it. But it's kind of, I'm not going to say it's serious, but we treat it relatively serious. And at the beginning, we're all technology guys, and it was like I'm a meth head, and Nick has my needles. He kept on bringing the technology with him, and it just grew from there. And then Joe is, like I said, a long-time good friend of mine, and he did not watch Deep Space Nine, which again I thought was criminal. And we brought him in on the episode Duet to really kind of heavy punch him so he could kind of get into it pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm. And it worked.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah,
I was hooked.
Yeah,
I watched. Rob invited me towards the end of season 1 to do like a guest, just kind of come along and give my thoughts as someone who hasn't watched Deep Space Nine. And the first episode was Duet, and then he asked me to watch the pilot Emissary beforehand, and I did. And it was really good. The pilot was really good, and we watched Duet, all three of us together before we recorded, and it was honestly one of the best episodes of television I'd ever seen. It didn't matter anything. It was fantastic, and I had a lot to say on that first episode. I think it's like 90 minutes plus or something. So once you get me talking, it's hard to shut me up. And I had so much to say about it, and it was just I was hooked from there. I wanted to watch more, and then they invited me on for the next episode, and then it just kind of became a thing. And I caught back up with season 1, and then it took me a few weeks to watch season 1 as I'm watching season 2 going forward. But I was hooked from the beginning.
I hope you're in for some talkers, because we're talking today.
I was about to say, just wait until you get to the big Dominion War arc from 5 to 7 there. That's incredible television, that is.
It really is, yep.
Yeah, absolutely. And the way that story just progresses through, it's smart, it's really clever writing, and here we go, I'm going off tangent now. But you can actually see where Ronald Moore went from there and what he took from that to go and do the modernised version of Battlestar Galactica.
Absolutely, he really does, and that actually makes me more excited to go back now and as we're doing our rewatch of DS9, get to the Dominion War, because the first time I watched DS9 was, right when it aired, so it's been a really long time. And I was kind of a kid still, like I was in my later teen years at that point. And when I watched Battlestar Galactica, I was in my mid-20s at that point. So my understanding of the world had evolved quite a bit. So now, after I've watched Battlestar Galactica, and now to go back and watch the DS9 Dominion War, I'm sure I'm going to have a much deeper appreciation than I had in the past.
Absolutely. I mean, personally, I think Deep Space Nine had the problem that really it was before its time, shall we say?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if it had come out around the early noughties instead, it would have been a perfect show for that sort of that sort of era.
Right.
Really.
Well, I just even think for the United States, probably right in the early 2000s, like after September 11th here, that would have been a great show about xenophobia and distrust and fear, because that took root here very quickly after September 11th. So it really spoke to a lot of the issues Deep Space Nine confronts.
Yeah.
And I think it would have been way more popular then at that point.
Well, it works with the... I mean, I think you might have seen it on my notes if you've looked, but I've got sort of like little bits that are to do with Deep Space Nine. So it sort of works with the... that works with the Section 31 and also the very duplicitous duplicity of the Cardassians, and then you've got the whole Dominion War, and you've also got the Maquis as well in there, and all of it just goes with that, the political situation that the world was in after 9/11. It fits there.
Yeah, it fits really well, and I think what I really enjoy about DS9 is it's not easy to point a finger and say this is the good guy and this is the bad guy. You know, say what you will about the Cardassians, right? But you know, as an empire overall, are they evil? Yeah, but it's not evil to the core where all the people are evil. They're just normal people. It's their government that is rotten, right?
Yeah,
and we can relate to that here.
I've even seen episodes so far up through 2 seasons where they're established as this evil empire, right? Or this former evil empire, and there's characters that are making decisions and doing things now where you kind of, it sheds a different light on them, and you can see them a little bit differently, and maybe a little bit nicer. There's something there that can be tapped into.
Right. Agreed.
Well, even things like, I mean, I don't want to give too much away here, but when you get into later seasons, like even Starfleet themselves, at times, there's things that where they do things, and you'll think, from another angle, that would be seen as something that a bad guy would do, like
right.
You know, like I'll name one, for instance, here in the Pale Moonlight.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and this sort of like something that's done there where where the person specifically.
I like how you're dancing.
Yes, you know what I'm trying to do here, don't you?
It's okay.
Oh, because that episode is phenomenal.
You don't have to dance around it. We're talking about a show that's almost 30 years old.
I think you almost do with this episode because you really gotta do that journey of that episode to really appreciate what the hell it does.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But we'll just say that it's a decision that Cisco does, and it's very, very questionable how he tries to maneuver things, shall we say?
Yeah.
And even in season 2, he's made some very questionable decisions that are inconsistent.
Yep.
And you can sort of see that those seeds of his decision making process. Really, there's an element of does it affect him personally that he factors into his decision making. And
right,
I mean, going forward, I could see in a war situation that becoming an issue.
Absolutely. Yep. But starting with is it Joe starting with Duet? That's a great episode to start with from season 1.
Oh my God, it was amazing.
That's a great episode. That's really good. I mean,
well, and what I think was kind of tricky about getting him into that episode is there were quite a few stinkers before that episode. Like season one and 2 is where Deep Space Nine is trying to find its footing, right?
Yeah.
And to start with Duet is a real challenge.
You're
right?
strategic on my part, man.
Yeah. Yes. But I mean,
that's going to pull me in. That's good television. It's going to pull me in and make me want to see more.
Yes, exactly. It was Deep Space Nine at its finest in the early seasons because it actually gets better than Duet at later points.
Yep.
But yeah, he watches Duet and then he goes back and watches Move Along Home and things. Yeah.
I did the joke about that, didn't I? Not long ago when I left a message something or other, and we were talking about your show, and you said, "Oh, you're better now," and I said, "So you get better as you move along home, do you?" Or something. Came up with that.
Yep.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
We make those puns all the time.
I think that's all that episode is good for is the jokes.
Yeah.
Absolutely, but then again, the episode is a joke, so yeah.
Hey, you said it, not us.
I'm sorry.
No,
the Paramount overlords are listening.
Oh dear. It's a good job I'm not doing a Star Trek podcast, otherwise you'll not get any of the actors in or anything.
That'll never happen for us anyway, so we're good.
Although I do get a lot of likes on my Instagram by Nana Vista. So
yeah, do you?
Really?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. She likes food. So when
she has a cookbook.
So when I put food pictures up from my other half, she likes them all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
she's very much in the cooking. Absolutely.
We gotta get her to follow our show.
Yeah. We'll start talking about food.
Can you start posting pictures of our snacks on
There we go.
Guys, I'm sure that she'd be more than willing to actually be a guest on the show.
Yeah.
You think?
Yeah.
Absolutely. She loves talking about... She's really proud of Deep Space Nine.
As she should be. I mean, she's incredible in that series. She's really great.
We talk pizza, too. Does she like pizza?
Oh, yeah. Cool.
You talk a lot of pizza.
Yeah. But... we're going off on a tangent again here, but the way that her character... Yep. The way that her character grows through the series, even through the first season, is incredible. When you get to, Duet is a good one as well with that, because you see how she changes in an instant. In that episode, she goes from how she was, suddenly she's a changed person by the end of that episode.
Yeah. I thought that was her best episode in season 1.
Well, and it's almost like she's a child until that episode, right? And how she responds to things, which makes sense because her character was supposed to be in her mid-20s at that point, right? Who had only experienced war, who had only experienced black and white situations, and now here she is, faced with a world full of moral grays, and it changes her perspective. And I was very vocal in the early seasons how much I did not like early seasons Kira, not because of the acting. She was incredible as an actor, but just the writing of the character. but it made sense, and it makes sense in terms of her growth now as well, where she's at.
Yeah, she's a vastly different character at the end of season 2 than she was even in the beginning or middle of season 1.
Yeah. But you find that same growth in all of the characters, like Bashir. When Bashir starts, he's very green, and he's almost childlike in his excitement and how he is. But he changes
annoying
throughout as well. Yes, can I say annoying? Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But yeah, he does. He changes significantly.
As do they all. I mean, even Cisco changes dramatically throughout the series. And
this is where I think Deep Space Nine has an advantage over the other series, because if you watch a lot of these other series, one of the endearing features of them is the characters don't really change that much, right? Kirk is Kirk, Spock is Spock, Bones is Bones, right? And you can even do that with Next Generation. Picard is pretty much always himself until the very end, where he decides to play poker. But that's as close as he gets to growing and changing as a character, and until they have the new series. And Voyager, all of them are pretty much exactly this. So Deep Space Nine really excel. What were you going to say?
I'll just say it's kind of unique.
Yeah.
In this universe, in this Star Trek universe, it's very unique and stands on its own.
Absolutely.
And all the other shows are kind of similar.
Yeah.
From what I've gathered. I mean, I haven't seen them, but from what I've gathered in the last 6 months or so.
Mm-hmm.
They're all different in their ways, but they're all kind of similar, right? And DS9 seems to be this outlier.
It was,
where it's like, it's, and it's just so unique, and it was done so well,
right?
And it holds up well, further down the line too.
Yeah,
like over time, it holds up seemingly much better than some of the other Star Trek of this era, like Enterprise, Voyager, even Next Generation.
Yeah. Oh, that's very true. Yeah.
Yep, there was always character growth throughout, even from the beginning. So the first episode to the second to the third. Although saying that, the first season was a strange one, because you had episodes that were recorded but then put out in a different order to how they were recorded. So
right,
you had sometimes that was strange, where episode 3 was recorded as episode 2, and episode 2 was recorded as the third episode. So the growth of the characters didn't quite work perfectly then. But then when you got into the second season, they seemingly were recorded in order.
Right, exactly. And I think with the first season of that, you can give it a pass, even if it was in order, because again, it's a show trying to find its own tone and in its place, right? So sometimes you play it a little bit safe with the characters in the early season, right? Let's keep them how they are. And then once you're established, then it's time to really push these characters and put them in precarious situations like we're starting to see, especially in the second season.
Yeah. I mean, by the time we get around to the end of season 2, we're 40 some episodes in.
Yeah.
So we're talking about way different times than now, where you might get 8 or 10 episodes to develop a character or a storyline.
Yeah.
Season 1 was 19 episodes or something, around 20 maybe?
I think it was 23, I thought. It might have been 23.
I think it was
I thought it was like 19 or 20.
I think it was in the high teens.
Oh, was it?
And then season 2 is like 24?
26.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're talking in the low 40s here. Now, it's over 4 seasons of a show now.
Right.
So you should be over 40 some episodes. You should be able to develop these characters, which is why season 1 to 2, you've got this wide character growth.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Because you have more episodes, you have more content, more storylines to tell than you would now.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I think it's a product of the modern world that it's like that, though, where because you've got online streaming, so you've got networks like you've got Netflix, you've got Prime, in America you've got Hulu and things like this, and HBO Max. Mm-hmm. There's so much choice out there that it's like a lot of people won't actually give these shows the time that they used to back in the day, where you'd watch a program and you'd think you'd go through the first 6 episodes or something,
Right.
and you'd be keep watching it and thinking, right, okay, I'll keep watching it because we'll see where it goes. Whereas nowadays, someone will watch 1 episode of something and they'll think, no, that's it. I'm not watching that. It's not going anywhere. I'll go on to the next thing.
Oh, yeah, you might get 15 minutes into an episode, and if it's not doing anything for you, there's so much options,
Right.
so much to choose from. I'll just move on. My time is more valuable now than I've got so many options. Why am I wasting my time with this slow-moving show?
Well, they even created, what was that? There was that experiment network that was basically the app that was basically like 10-minute shows.
Yeah.
That they were.
Was that Quibi?
Quibi. Yeah, you're right, Quibi. And it didn't last. It really backfired. But if you watch Netflix, right, like there's a lot of shows on there now. They're doing like 20-minute shows, 18-minute shows, like intentionally, of like sitcoms and everything. Like, so that way, even if you decide you don't love it, it's like 8 episodes and they're 18 minutes apiece. So then they can still claim, look, they watched the whole series.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, they're an hour and a half invested. Right?
I mean, even a show that already has an established fan support, The Mandalorian. It's part of Star Wars. I mean, you're going to get people watching that show no matter what.
Right.
It's like 8 episodes a season, and they're like under 40 minutes an episode.
Mm.
Yeah.
Some of them are like 32 minutes.
Yeah. So, yeah. Well, and but you know what? I appreciate this about streaming networks now. 'Cause this is some of the problem I've had with some of these Deep Space Nine episodes over the past couple of seasons is the pacing. They will either push a story way too far fast, right? Last week we watched an episode, Tribunal, where they had this great setup, this great story, and then within 1 minute, they ended the story and wrapped it all up in exposition.
Yeah, you guys want to, on like the side of the stage, tapping their watch, like, hey, let's wrap it up.
Yeah,
let's go.
wrap it up. Let's go. Whereas these new streaming networks and these streaming shows can say, this is the episode I got. This is a 30-minute show, but this one's going to be a 48-minute show. And they can do it because they don't have to worry about advertisers. They don't have to worry about commercial breaks.
Yeah.
I mean, it really has allowed for greater creativity. So, yeah, there are some negatives, like the shorter attention span, but at the same time, it allows for more of the vision of the writer for their series to come to fruition.
Yeah, and even shows like WandaVision from Marvel, that's exactly the same, where they've kept it to that around 30 minutes to 40 minutes per episode as well. So they've done that as well. So yeah.
Right. Yeah, I just watched the finale today, and it was 48 minutes, by far the longest one, but the rest of them have been much shorter.
Yeah. Well, 8 minutes of that was the credits at the end.
Credits. Yes.
The credits, and then did you see both of the post-credit sequences?
I did. Yeah, I did. Rob has not watched it yet, so he took his headphones down. We're not going to spoil anything.
I don't believe.
Yeah, it's Marvel. You're
I'm not spoiling anything,
credits.
Rob. I'm not going to spoil it.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay, but you'll enjoy it. It's satisfying.
I'm looking forward to it. We're going to probably watch that tonight.
Yeah.
Yep, that's good. So let's have a look then. So description of your show, I would say that you're working your way from beginning to end of all the Deep Space Nine episodes. Is that right?
Yeah, that's about right. I mean, our goal is to just kind of, the great thing is, again, we got the 3 different voices. We have someone who's new to Star Trek and 2 who are veterans, one who loves this series and one who's kind of middling on it. So, we watch the episodes and bring all of our perspectives from our lives into the show. And hopefully there'll be some episodes where when we start the episode that we're recording, one of us may hate the episode, but by the end of it, we see it in a new light. So our goal is to kind of...
That's already happened a couple times.
Quite a few times, right? So, yeah, it's kind of breaking down the episodes and looking for me, it's looking for moral and philosophical questions. For Rob, I don't know what it's for Rob. What is it for you?
I want to be entertained.
He wants... I want.
Are you not entertained?
I want
it's just a reason to watch DS9 again.
Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah.
We also try to throw in every month, once a month, filler episodes where it's kind of, we talk about random things, whether it be our favorite TV show characters. So we try to hit pop culture in between DS9 episodes here and there.
Okay, you're preempting something I'm going to ask here, aren't you? Because I was about to say, what would you say each of you is your... Actually, this might be tricky. So your favourite main character and your favourite peripheral character, shall we say?
Well, before we say anything there, Nick can go first. We'll do main characters, because when we get the peripheral character, Joe may take an hour of your time. So Nick, go ahead and do your main character.
Main character. I'm going Odo. Main character Odo.
Did I go Odo?
Yeah.
This will change probably regularly, but right now I'm going to go Cisco.
Cisco.
Yep.
Okay.
Main character, I'd say, is Quark.
Quark.
I love Quark.
Is Quark a main character?
Yeah. He's in the credits.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Don't hate on him.
I'm not
He's
hating
main.
on. I'm not. I would almost consider him a secondary character.
You're out of your mind.
How dare?
Doesn't mean he's not good at a good.
He's not good enough for you.
My gosh, can you lay off of it? Well,
Is it his age?
We're gonna have a show meeting.
Is it his age?
Shut your mouth. This is embarrassing.
He's in the main credits.
Yep.
Yeah, that's true.
Armin Shimmerman is in there, buddy, so he's main character.
I'm not knocking him. He's great.
Sounds like it.
He's great.
Also very good as Principal Snyder
Yep.
in
Principal
Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yep.
I'm one of the. I have not ever seen Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Great as a judge in Boston Legal, too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And a great death from Principal Snyder in Buffy the Vampire Slayer as well.
Well, now I have no reason to watch it. Spoiled. No.
I've not told you
Peripheral
how.
character. I think for our B characters, I'm going to guess it's all the same guy. But we're going to let Joe talk most about it. I'm going to go with Garrick,
Oh,
and then I'm going to shut up.
I was going to say Garrick.
Yeah.
Nick, what do you think? Who's yours?
I'll say Garrick.
Go ahead, Joe.
It's Garrick.
Take it away, Joe.
You can't see this, but I'm threatening both of them.
Yeah.
They have to say Garrick.
Yes.
Garrick is my favorite character on the show.
He loves Garrick so much, right? He has an erection right now.
I love Garrick.
Uncomfortable.
He's the best person to go if you want a really good suit tailoring. That's for sure.
That's true.
It's true. Got Clothier.
Yes.
Marv, who's your favorite character on the show?
Favorite main character, possibly Cisco.
Okay.
My man.
And my favourite peripheral has got to be Garrick, for sure.
I mean, we're not even to some other peripheral characters just yet. So, I mean,
I'm only 2 seasons in, so I can't. I mean, over the scope of the entire series, my favorite character is probably gonna. Well, my favorite main character is gonna change. Garrick he's etched in stone.
Who is the alien from Move Along Home? I really like that guy a lot.
Oh no, I'm trying to remember.
Nick's been drinking, so we apologize for him.
I'm not.
Dear me. But talking about peripheral characters, Lita. It's amazing how a character that's as little a character, shall we say, from the beginning, also makes such a huge growth throughout the whole 7 seasons as well.
And without spoiling it for Joe, Nog. Nog is a great example of that.
Yes.
I might change my answer, actually. I'm changing my answer. Nog. That's my answer. I'm sorry.
Your answer's wrong.
Yeah. No, I just... Even this last episode is fantastic. That we're covering the season finale for the 2nd season today. And Nog has a pretty decent role in there.
He's okay. I know together with Jake, I like their relationship.
Yeah.
Well, I like the relationship between Jake and his father, Cisco.
I love it.
Yes.
I love that relationship between those two. It's a perfect father and son relationship that's just so beautiful, and you can tell how much Avery Brooks and Sirach both had that almost father-son relationship in real life as well. They must have done to have been able to be like that, because it just seems so natural.
It does. It comes through on screen so effortlessly.
Sirach has talked about that. I don't know if it's on the 7th rule or what it's on, but he said that Avery Brooks really treated him like a son. He even called him son.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing that I really love about it is the chemistry was apparent from the very first episode. It's not like some of these shows where you're like, they're not really lining up well, and then at some point they just click, right? Like, I would have loved to have been in the screen tests for that when they were auditioning and when they finally put them in the room together for the first time, because I bet you the producers were just blown away from their instant chemistry. Because you would think they're actually father and son. Like, they're that good.
The chemistry is excellent. It's so far it's the best in the show.
Yeah,
easily.
Yeah.
And going back to Nog, I will say that during the Dominion War episodes, some episodes with Nogs were almost, tear-inducing in some ways, because his acting in it and what happened with his character were just, they were also amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Totally agree. That I know what you're speaking of, and that was really well done.
Mm-hmm.
So, just in passing, what do you think about the argument that people have had over the years, the Deep Space Nine Babylon 5 argument?
Babylon 5 people can go to hell.
Well, okay. Slow your roll. Okay, calm down.
I co-sign on that. I've never seen Babylon 5, but I co-sign.
No,
my man.
Babylon 5 is really, really good. It is.
I've heard that.
It is.
And I can still go to hell.
And I think the reality is, I think this is, to me, when shows like this fight, there's room for both of them, right? Yeah. And I know the fear is that one copied the other, right? That's the big argument, that they're just stealing material, but that's a sign of honor, I think. So whether it be Babylon 5 stealing from DS9 or vice versa, it's a sign of how well done your material was, that people would want to take that and run with it. It's the same reason why Apple keeps making great phones year after year, because they take all the good designs from everyone else, they steal them and put them in their phone. And people love Apple Watches for it. People love Apple phones for it, right? I mean, it's no different.
So does Deep Space Nine predate Babylon 5?
Same time, weren't they?
They were around the same time, yeah. And the thought was one went into production before the other, and they knew about each other as they were getting ready. So the thought is, well, you knew what we were trying to do with our characters, and you kind of stole them before you went to screen. I mean, it's...
No, not having seen Babylon 5 and only seeing a very small portion of Deep Space Nine, I see it as sort of like comedians, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think some comedians will flat out steal your material, and it's blatant.
Dane Cook,
yeah. Carlos Mencia,
yeah.
But there's comedians who kind of share a lane, right? But they do their own thing, but they kind of share a space, or like material, or people who do observation, right? Or do like one-liners, or they do like sex-related stuff, or they do whatever. They're a dirty comic, or people do clean material.
Yeah.
There's room for more than one of a certain type of art.
Right.
Yeah.
Just because someone makes one type of art doesn't mean, just because there's a rock and roll band doesn't mean there doesn't need to be another rock and roll band. There was the Beatles, and there's the Rolling Stones.
Yeah.
And there's room in this world for both of them to coexist.
Well, and today
they can overlap and they can influence each other.
Well, and that's the same thing that's happening today, right? You had Led Zeppelin, and now there's Greta Van Fleet, who's out of Flint. Sounds almost exactly like Led Zeppelin, and people are ripping them to shreds because of that.
Mm.
But that is a sincere form of flattery, right? Like, to imitate.
Right.
And I personally think they have a unique sound, but I just can't. When these people argue about stuff like this, like it happens in gamer culture too, like Xbox or PlayStation, right?
DC and Marvel.
Or DC and Marvel. The reality is, the fact that they're competing means that they're going to work to bring out better products. So why do we want one to win over the other? We want them to keep competing because it's going to force them to come up with better writing or better material or better product.
Because if you're not better than the other guy, then
they're not arguing about what's better.
Well, they're not watching your show.
Yeah.
Because
exactly.
If there's another show that's similar to what you're doing and they're doing it better, I'm just gonna watch Babylon 5.
Right.
Or if you're a Babylon 5 person and it's tanking, it's going downhill, I'll watch Deep Space Nine.
Yeah,
it's fine
because it's familiar to me and it's comfortable, but the writing is better, so I'm gonna go there.
Right.
And it has Garrick.
Well, I mean,
yeah.
Wherever Garrick is, that's the show I'm watching.
absolutely. But you find it a lot with a lot of programs where it's called inspiration, or influence.
Right.
So shows will be
Right.
influenced by other shows. You know, I
Yeah.
mean, not that you can see it incredibly that much, but you know, Gene Roddenberry said that the original Star Wars was basically Wagon Train to the Stars. Is that what he called it? I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so he was inspired by that. You know, I would say that Alias, the spy show, was
Mhm.
sort of
Great show.
influenced-ish on Buffy the Vampire Slayer to a
Mhm.
degree.
Mhm.
You know, so you've got all these things that inspire each other, which brings us to, you know, you've already mentioned, you know, other sci-fi. So what other sci-fi do you love individually?
Well, there's this little known show called.
Never heard of it.
No, I joke around with the guys all the time. So I'm a big Battlestar Galactica fan. I absolutely love that show, particularly because it does speak to xenophobia and it speaks a lot about terrorism and justified terrorism. So I really enjoyed Battlestar Galactica for that reason. That was probably the first sci-fi show I really watched after watching all the Star Trek shows, saying, wow, this is incredible. Like after that, not much could live up to it. I've watched The Expanse. I really enjoyed The Expanse. It's based off of basically a series of 9 novels. It's on Amazon Prime, but gosh, I'm in a lot of sci-fi actually now that I mentioned that. I'm a big sci-fi nerd.
You know, I learned talking to Joe and Nick a couple of weeks ago that I'm actually really not into sci-fi.
Neither
Okay.
neither am I.
Yeah.
I mean, not that I'm not into it. I don't think I've really watched a whole lot of it.
I think the problem is
Star Wars.
I think a lot of the sci-fi people are exposed to tends to be cheesy sci-fi, and I think that's the problem.
Yeah.
You need something that's done well, written well. I think The Expanse, which you can watch on Amazon, is really good.
Quantum Leap.
Yeah.
Quantum Leap is good, but yeah, whatever.
What about you?
Me personally, definitely all of the Star Treks, as I was saying before the show, you know, watched all the Star Treks, Star Wars. I suppose I'm a bit of a sci-fi geek, I suppose. So
Good man.
Yep.
I mean, sorry, go ahead.
I've watched some Babylon 5. I've got all the Babylon 5s on DVD. I've just not had the chance to actually watch them.
Yeah.
Because I'll always find something else. It's
Right.
that sort
Deep
of
Space
thing.
Nine.
Right.
Yes. Even if I do end up watching Babylon 5, I will still say that Deep Space Nine would be the better show.
Nick, did you hear that? Just want to make sure you heard that.
I'm okay with that. I never
Simple
said
mathematics.
I
Nine is
never
greater
said
than five.
Babylon 5 is better. I think Deep Space Nine is better, but I don't think it's fair to make you
You know I want to talk trash.
decide one is great and one is terrible. They can
No.
both excel.
Agreed.
The episodes
Like-
that I've seen of Babylon 5, I've liked.
So, like, my sci-fi love is not so much sci-fi, but if you start talking about Batman,
Yeah.
comic books, we'll chat.
I mean, Batman, you can really consider him kind of science fiction, right? He uses all gadgets that aren't real.
He has no superpowers, man.
Exactly, science fiction. He uses science and it's fiction.
Well, you mentioned Batman, you know, and the superheroes thing, and going back to a point that you made. I mean, back in the day, Marvel and DC used to admit that they basically ripped each other off.
Oh yeah, yeah.
For
Each of them
ideas.
has. Yeah, they all have characters that overlap, right?
Yeah,
They both have Captain Marvels.
Yeah,
they do.
yeah, they
That's
do.
true.
They both have their own Batmans, right?
Yep.
They, basically Tony Stark is the Batman for the Marvel universe.
In a
I
way.
mean, you think about it. It's a guy who uses technology. He's a billionaire. He's
Yep.
messed up, right? Because Tony Stark in the comics is messed up. He's an alcoholic. He has all these other issues.
Yeah.
They overlap. Absolutely.
Back in the day, they were more blatant about ripping each other off.
Oh yeah.
And they would
Yeah.
talk trash about it too.
Right.
It would just there was no secret about it.
Yeah.
Now you got to kind of dance around. Oh well, they're an influence, and we love what they're doing. And no, we know what you're doing.
Yeah. And it's okay. We're cool with it.
It's fine because you're going to want more of whatever it is anyway, right?
When Marvel eventually brings out the Namor film, everybody's going to say, "Oh, that's a rip-off of Aquaman," because it is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
it absolutely is. And they said that back in the day. Oh, yeah, it is. Yeah.
What's going to be interesting pretty soon is because they're doing the thing where they're going to have the multiverse in Marvel.
Madness, yeah.
But DC was starting to work on that with the Flash, which will come out after Multiverse of Madness.
And they're going to say it's copying.
And they're saying it's going to say it's copy. So you can't win if you're in that group. So if you're Star Wars, Star Trek, Battlestar Galactica, Deep Space, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
absolutely. So going back to Battlestar Galactica, then I'll ask this now. So 70s or the noughties, what do you think of them both?
So I've tried watching the 70s version and I find it quite cheesy. I didn't enjoy it at all. I liked the grittier reboot. I really enjoyed, because one of the cool things about Battlestar Galactica is it's science fiction, right? They're on spaceships, but they still use paper, and they still there's still all these things, they still they look like they're living a normal life, like a normal, it looks like you wouldn't walk down the streets there and you wouldn't know anything, but then all of a sudden they have a giant Battlestar Galactica up in space, or the Pegasus up in space. So I definitely like the grittier reboot, the more grounded reboot, especially because, as I said, what they have to say about also religion, because it's very big on monotheism versus polytheism, right? And the humans are polytheistic, the Cylons are monotheistic, so it's kind of, at first, it's a religious war, and I dig those elements, especially because, I'm all about that religious life. So
70s sci-fi is very hit or miss too.
Yeah.
And when it misses, boy,
and this is bad.
Yeah. And when it hits, it doesn't really hit all that hard.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I think really getting into the mid to late 80s is when modern sci-fi really starts to take off and get very good.
Definitely with television. I mean, the films are a completely different beast altogether. Because
I'm speaking more television,
films.
But yeah, you're right.
You had some decent films in the late 60s. You've got 2001, I suppose, in the late 60s. In the 70s, you've got things like Silent Running, and then in the 80s, so you've always had this constant stream of films. But I think that's more budgetary that's caused that. Whereas in the 70s and earlier with television, they didn't put the amount of money into the budget as they started to do in the late 90s and the early noughties.
Yeah.
Right.
So, are there any standout moments at the moment in your show that you can think of?
I'm going to say something, and Nick's going to...
I know what you're going to say. Okay, go ahead.
Nick's going to yell at me after this. So, you slip up, and Nick mentioned sending a twat instead of a tweet. It makes me laugh still to this day.
Well, you think about the verbiage, and it makes sense. I'm going to tweet this message. So, was it tweeted? Was it,
Words are hard. They're difficult.
Hard. Yeah.
They are.
I think for me, the standout moment was there was an episode earlier in this season where they were on a planet where they shunned technology. And we were arguing about what is a cult versus what is not a cult. And I think that's the first time where we had a flat out argument on the show.
Yeah.
We like to have friendly banter, but this is the first time when I realized that I'm working with two men who don't know what they're talking about. So that was very difficult for me.
And we had to come to the realization that
Nick's an alcoholic.
And that if any of us were, called to a cult, Nick would go.
Yeah.
Nick would be
in a heartbeat.
Yep.
Look, man, they have free Kool-Aid.
I don't know. You get thirsty. I get it, man. It's summertime.
The pizza episode we did was a lot of fun too, because
I had fun with that.
Because it's one of our episodes where we needed to really put a parental advisory in front of it, because Joe went off about Detroit style pizza.
Yeah, I'm a pizza addict. I love pizza. I love it. Yeah. I had it twice today. I had it for lunch and just now.
Hey,
it's a good day.
No arguing.
And yeah, I didn't hold anything back.
Yeah. Was that your standout moment then?
I thought this honestly, one of my standout moments was the first episode I was on. Just how
that's fun.
It was a lot of fun, but just how good the episode was, and being so new to everything, it really did like grab me immediately.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, if I didn't like the show, or the episode wasn't that good,
mm-hmm.
I still would have, you know, I was already here. I'm going to do the episode, but maybe I might not have been as into it, but I was into it from the get go, and that it just kicked everything off. And I wanted to watch more. I was reading more about it. I was trying not to read too far ahead, but I think that first moment was that first rush
mm-hmm.
of like, okay, this is definitely going to be something that I want to do. Like, you hadn't invited me back for the next time yet. Right. But I was like, okay, well, I want to watch more with them, and I want to talk about it more.
Yeah.
I don't want to just watch one episode and talk about it and then be done.
With it. Yeah.
It was a show that I was like, I want to talk about every episode that I watch with you guys.
So, Joe,
We're called.
Yeah. So, Joe, have you got to the stage then where, in a sense, you're watching these episodes for the shows, and really you want to actually be watching more than just that one episode per week? You want to be, you're hooked on it now.
Yeah, I am. I absolutely am. I mean, generally we do 2 episodes per episode of our show. So there's 2 episodes of Deep Space Nine that we do per podcast. But I find myself wanting to watch more. Yeah. I want to skip ahead, but I don't. At the same time, I don't want to skip ahead, because I want, my thoughts and my impressions of each episode on our show are very fresh. Right? It's the week. Sometimes it's the day. I'll watch the show the morning before we record, so I'm super fresh,
mm-hmm.
and the episode is super fresh in my mind. But I do want to watch more. I can't wait to watch more.
Well, and I'm going to say something kind of sacrilegious, but Deep Space Nine is not meant to be binge watched. It's not.
I agree.
It's a show that you need time to reflect on what happened and think about it. And this is the thing where sometimes I think our modern television is at a disadvantage, because it's made to binge watch, right? So you get through a series in 3 weeks, and then you never think about it ever again. Mm-hmm. If Deep Space Nine was like that, would people still be thinking about it today? Would people still care about this show because you could watch it in 3 weeks, right? If you binge watch it, I don't think they would. But the fact that you can think about it, and as you're thinking about the episode you watched, to get new little nuggets out of it and say, wait, why did Cisco respond this way? Or wait, maybe he isn't as good of a captain as we thought he was, or commander at this point. These are things that you're not going to get if you're binge watching.
I watch TV differently because I watch Deep Space Nine now.
Yeah.
Like, I watch TV more analytically. I'm thinking about things
good man
in a much different sense than just, okay, that was a good 30 or 45 minutes. What's next?
Yeah.
I'm watching Deep Space Nine. I'm taking notes. I'm making mental notes. I'm analyzing character growth. I'm doing all these things for our show,
mm-hmm.
but the show Deep Space Nine itself is doing some of these things for me, and it's so well done.
Mm-hmm.
And it, in a sense, it's kind of ruined binge watching for me. I'm not a binge watcher in general. I don't watch a ton of TV. I just don't. I don't watch a ton of movies. But I watched this show way different than I've watched anything else, with the exception of probably Lost.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's also science fiction, by the way. That's sci-fi.
Okay, then
I got lost.
Then I'm a huge sci-fi fan.
Yeah. Have you watched the show that the people from Lost made after that, Fringe?
Oh my gosh, I forgot about Fringe. That is such a good show.
Yeah.
Did you ever watch it?
No, I didn't.
Oh, they do multiple realities in that one too. It's pretty cool.
I think
it's like X-Files, but not.
And just kind of gave up on it too quick.
It's like I don't want to say it's a goofier X-Files, because it's not goofy. It's not at all. But
X-Files. Yeah, I like sci-fi. To go back on a question from a half hour ago. Yeah, I'm a sci-fi guy. Like X-Files, Lost.
Fringe is a strange one, because it's a slow burn to start with. The first season is pretty slow and just very, very X-Files-ish.
Yes. Yeah.
And then it finds its footing in the second season onwards, and then it becomes that overarching story that's just really well paced and incredibly clever.
Absolutely.
So yeah, going back to the serialization, I think that's another good thing with recently, where you've got things like The Mandalorian and these Disney series, where they're all going to be released on a weekly basis, and like you said, it becomes it makes it a talking point then that they do that, where you'll be talking and saying, "Oh, I wonder what's going to happen in the next episode." Whereas if you have it as a binge series and you just watch it over a weekend or your couple of days off, then it's not got the same sort of satisfaction that you get from a series that's released as a serial.
I 100% agree, and I think I think what they're doing with that is a happy medium between the old school appointment television, weekly appointment television, and the new school of just drop everything and let everybody watch it all at once.
Yeah.
I think having something streaming weekly, episodic like that, I think that's a perfect happy medium, and I appreciate that they do it, because I just, there's something so dissatisfying about having everything all at once, being able to watch it in a day or two, and then throwing it away, and then you never talk about it again.
And that's, and then that also puts a lot of pressure on these streaming networks to release constant new content, because people are doing it like that, right? It costs a fortune to create a new series, right? And then to be like, you know what, I'm going to drop all 8 episodes at once and then immediately go into creating a new one, instead of let's just pace it out. You film it all at once, fine, but then release it one at a time. They did that with Netflix, did that with The Witcher, which is absolutely incredible, but they released them all at once, so people stopped talking about it. But think about it, like in early 2020, right when the pandemic hit, Netflix released Tiger King, and everyone was obsessed with Tiger King for like 2 weeks.
Yep.
But then no one ever talks about it again. Or Bridgerton was a huge hit more recently. No one talks about it anymore.
It was all over Twitter for like a week and a half or 2 weeks, and then it was gone.
And so you lose a fan base that way, because there's not that word of mouth that would happen by weekly releases.
Yep.
And the anticipation from week to week to try to get to that next episode.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But then again, as a Trekkie, that amount of time we had to wait to find out what happened after Best of Both Worlds Part 1 in Next Generation, and we had to wait a whole 6 months for Part 2.
But how incredible probably was that moment? Like,
I remember. I watched it and I crapped my pants.
And that's one of the best cliffhangers of all time. That was such a good cliffhanger.
Let's see, what was that? That was 91, maybe?
Maybe.
So I was a young man then, and I swear to God, it's like, holy shit, what just happened?
Yeah. Picard's a Borg. What the hell?
Yeah.
I know. What the hell are they doing?
How are they going to get out of this one? I've got to wait 6 months to find out. Damn it.
You got to wait 6 months to find out.
And you're just going to sit there and go, this is bullshit.
So then what happens for the next 6 months, the Star Trek fans start talking amongst themselves, and then telling their friends and saying, oh my gosh, I don't know what's going to happen. I've never seen a show do this
before. They just blew up a card.
And then they get more fans, right?
But news traveled so much slower back then too.
Yes.
So it would come out in like a magazine, a monthly magazine. So the 6 months in 1991 time was probably
6 minutes.
Probably 6 weeks or a month in 2020 time. I mean, the conversion rate is probably, by the time that show ended and the information and fans' reactions are coming out through these magazines, that's very, very early internet.
Internet was around, but it was not.
Yeah, it was not
much.
So it was, even the internet was a few years off, really. So just news traveled so much slower. So the 6 months probably didn't seem like 6 months. 6 months now, it's a death sentence for a show.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is.
Think of Ozark or The Walking Dead or
Ozark,
Breaking Bad. These shows where they went off the air for a large period of time.
Yeah.
And you had your anticipation, but people just moved on.
Not from Breaking Bad.
Well, not from Breaking Bad, but I mean,
but yeah, you're right.
There's so much out there. You just kind of move on, and then all of a sudden it comes back, and you're like, oh yeah, that show I remember, and then you kind of forget where you were beforehand. Just
yeah.
Well, Sopranos, you had 2 years between 2 of the seasons, I think.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
Lost had a big break there for a while too.
Curb Your Enthusiasm has huge breaks between that season.
Yes, and going completely different. Family Guy.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
So, what sort of research do you do prior to the show? Is it just watching the episodes and then taking notes, or do you actually look up online and go down rabbit holes?
I think all of us do it a little bit differently. Most of the time, I'll go to Fandom or IMDb and do a little bit of research. Because I'm a huge nerd, I already know most of the behind-the-scenes stuff, but I'll go pick up something that I'll read on the internet real quick and update it. I know early on, before Joe came around, I was kind of the behind-the-scenes guy, and I would drop that knowledge here and there. But yeah, it's pretty much, we watch the episodes, we all take our notes, we convene, and then we talk about it, and I'll drop some random behind-the-scenes stuff.
Right. And yeah, I do a little bit of research, but I don't go down the rabbit holes as much. I will say that when we sit down to film an episode, a philosophy of our podcast is to not script it. Essentially, it's very important for us to not feel scripted. Other shows, and it works for them, and I really appreciate that. But we wanted this to come across like you could listen to this in your car or wherever you may be, and you felt like you were part of the conversation. And if we had done it like in a scripted manner where you had segments and other things, it would lose a little bit of that warmness and or organic nature to it. So one of the things I think is an advantage for us is there's not a lot of prep time to it. It's kind of nice.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that I don't quote unquote prep. I mean, I watch the episodes and I take my notes, and I have an outline of things I want to talk about, or notes that I want to hit. Sometimes we hit them, sometimes we don't. It just depends on where the conversation is going.
It's not a cult.
It's totally a friggin' cult, man.
Like that.
But yeah, I mean, I being so new, I want to I'll watch the episode, and then I'll have my notes, and then I'll go back and I'll do a little more research on either things that were in the episode, characters that may have come into the episode, topics they touched upon, things like that. And I'll do a little bit more research, but I won't, it's not too intense.
Yeah.
Because I don't want it to be like an information dump. Mm-hmm. I just want to talk about the episode, what I saw, how I felt. Sometimes I have strong feelings on an episode, sometimes I don't. And it just depends on what the show is giving me at that point.
So when having no actual set structure to the show, do you just do very minimal editing then, and you just let the show almost go out in that natural way that you've discussed the episodes during your episodes themselves?
So before with our previous mixer, I had to do quite a bit of editing to normalize the volumes and play around with that. And I would cut out maybe pops or anything else we would have in there, but I don't really cut segments, or for instance, let's say there's a long pause or something like that. I leave those in there because I think a long pause is a natural thing, right? People have long pauses in conversation.
Or brain farts.
Right. So I very intentionally left that in there. Now, I could argue that it's out of laziness as well. And you could. If there's a big mistake in there, then we would cut it out. But we haven't been there really yet, for the most part.
I'm sure it'll happen at some point.
Yeah.
It just jinxed us, man.
I know.
And I've done editing and all that stuff
right now.
So for me, it's not a big issue. It wouldn't be. I could edit it if I wanted to, but I like what we're doing here, and I
We're
like how
Plus,
it's
where
a
it
one
flows
take.
very naturally for us.
Yeah,
I mean, I feel like the Hair Club for Men. I'm not just a podcast host. I'm also a listener.
Yeah.
But I listen to our show, and it does sound pretty organic and natural flowing.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. I wouldn't want it to be cut up so that some of these breaks and some of these the ums are taken out, because that's a conversation. But if I'm just hanging out with you guys and we're not recording, we're talking about football or we're talking about another TV show or whatever, it's going to sound pretty much just like what our DS9 show sounds like. And that's kind of to me, that's kind of the point.
Right, because those ums that are in there are ums that maybe other people are thinking, like, if they're listening to our show, they could have a thought in their head and they're saying, but what about this? So it invites them in to have those little things like that. And
if you don't give them those awkward pauses, the listener is going to be yelling what I'm thinking of. If I'm like, oh my God, what was the name of that show? That one show. And they're listening saying, it was Lost, you idiot. Like, it was Lost. Like, those are, as a listener of other shows, I've done that when listening to other podcasts. And it brings you into the podcast. Yeah. And those are great moments. And I would hate to edit that interaction out.
And some of it works really well, right? Yeah. But I think for what we're working at, what we're looking for, it just wouldn't be a natural fit for us.
We don't do a lot of interviewing, or none to this point.
Okay.
So I think, like with you, I'd have to imagine you have to do quite a bit of editing.
Yes, but not half as much as I used to do.
Really? That's good.
No. I think when I started doing it, I was a bit more, I'd say probably over the top with it and a bit I don't know what the word is really.
Was it a perfection seek, or was it just because you had weird gaps you wanted to fill in?
Yeah, it was more of a perfection thing, and then I realised over time doing it, I say over time, I only started doing it in October, but over time I've sort of realised that I don't really need to go that way, and it sounds unnatural sometimes doing that. So you let little, like you said, you let some pauses, you leave pauses as they are, because it's natural, and sometimes when people and ah, that's a natural, because that's them thinking about what they're going to,
Did that light bulb turn on for you? Were you listening to your own podcast? Did you get feedback, or how'd you come up? Where you said, you know what, I don't need to do this anymore?
I think, I've listened back to some of them, and I've actually thought sometimes that it doesn't sound natural at times, and I've thought over the months, I've thought, well, perhaps I ought to be a bit more lenient and not be quite over the top so much, because I used to spend hours and hours editing as well, and you'd think, well, why am I using all that time up to make it sound unnatural?
Good point.
Now, does any of that have to do with the fact that there's different audio sources, and you're doing more of an interview show where the three of us are in a room talking, so the conversation can be a little bit more natural, and we don't have to necessarily wait for to hear the response and then respond?
Yeah, sometimes I think it's because of that it is like that. Whereas because I do a mix of shows, so I'll do that most of the time. It's episodes talking to podcasters about their shows, but occasionally I do group chats as well, where I'll get people in for just to chat about a specific subject, and there'll be different podcasters from different podcast shows that come and talk. So I'm in talks at the moment with a couple of people who do. There's somebody who does a King Crimson podcast, there's a Yes podcast, and then there's a podcast about Genesis. So I thought it might be interesting to get all them together and have a discussion overall discussion about progressive rock.
Mishmash, I like it.
Yeah. Oh.
So my eventually I'm hoping to do a Star Trek crossover where I can have guys from different Star Trek related shows on, and they can just have an all out chat about Star Trek.
So if you had to pick one, Genesis, Yes, or King Crimson, who are you going to choose?
I'll go with Genesis.
Pre or post Peter Gabriel, or where are you at there? So I think Genesis with Phil Collins as lead is much better Genesis.
Hell yeah.
I like all the eras of Genesis.
Okay. All right. Okay.
But my favorite album with Phil is probably Trick of the Tail.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That is a great one.
We can talk music all day too, by the way.
Yeah, we could. We're music fanatics here.
And Duke is a fabulous album.
Now I'm gonna listen to some Genesis after this.
But then I like We Can't Dance. A lot of that.
We can.
Yeah,
it's such a good album.
Well, I think that's what's so incredible about Genesis is how diverse their sound could be, right? I mean, they could put out the pop hits, but they could do the progressive rock too. Like they were an impressive band.
I love some good prog rock.
They perfected the art of making a full album, like an album that
told a story.
Yes.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Definitely. Yep.
I think Pink Floyd did that as well.
Yeah.
I think it's become a lost art with a lot of bands. I mean, we're going completely off subject
absolutely.
Here, but a lot of bands and artists nowadays, in some ways, I don't know if they know how to make an album as such that flows from one song to the other that they used to do back in the old days. I think it's all about of the moment and the song that gets the interest from the audience.
Yeah, I think
getting that hit out there, getting that beat,
especially with what mainstream radio is playing. I mean, you can find artists out there that are making albums and kind of in the more traditional sense where they're making an album,
right?
Not just a collection of songs,
right?
But yeah, it's as far as mainstream music, the art of the album is gone. It's lost. Right. It is over. It's dead.
Well, I think part of that, this kind of goes back to media structures. You had to tell a story because you had side A and side B. You had to be concise and precise with what you wanted on that album. Now it's like, there are no limits. It's all digital. I can do whatever I want. And it used to be, these big rock bands or whatever, these groups that had deeper albums would say, we got to do at least one catchy single so people will buy it. But once they buy it, they're going to be hooked on everything else. But now it's like, I just got to do one catchy single and that's it. And then I got to come up with another catchy single and then another catchy single.
You jump single to single.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the music, that sort of thing, the art of the album, I think that's just stayed as something that's more for those sort of the progressive bands that are around now, and some of the older artists, they still make albums as albums, but
right,
yeah. But like you said, I mean that works for all media formats really, where it's of the moment, it's what's now. Like I was saying with programs, where now people won't give a television series 6 episodes to get into it before it finds its feet. They'll just give it that 15-20 minutes and go, no, I don't like this. What else can I watch on this streaming platform?
Mm-hmm. Well, and one of the things that I've always appreciated about what happens overseas there is that they're not seasons, they're series, right? So like, it'd be a contained series, and they could make something else if they wanted to, but the story was done and it's wrapped up, right? Whereas here, you don't do that. Here's a show that's going to last 10 seasons with 24 episodes a season and just get progressively worse and worse and worse. I'm looking at you, How I Met Your Mother. Instead of just ending, right? Yeah. And now American television is starting to kind of catch up to that. We're starting to do the series and everything like that.
We talked about Lost not too long ago, and I feel like Lost would have been a better show if it was around now. Just because they really lost their footing in seasons 3 and 4, and they were telling very bad stories, and they were just introducing things into that show because they didn't know where they were going. Mm-hmm. There was no end in sight.
And they needed 26 episodes.
Right.
Yeah.
So if they had 6 seasons of maybe 12 to 15 episodes and 45 minutes long, tighter episodes, and they have they go to Netflix or Hulu, or they go to these big studios and they say, we have a show, we have a story we want to tell over the next 6 seasons.
Yeah.
it's going to be more concise. It's going to, that filler is going to be gone, and the show itself is going to be way better.
I know Dave Bradley, who used to be editor of the sci-fi magazine SFX, he actually said that he's recently been chatting with people who make television for the US, and they were saying how, we're doing this thing where we're only having like short seasons now of 6 to 8 episodes, and it's revolutionary. And then Dave Bradley said, well, we've been doing that in the UK since the 60s.
Right, exactly. And it allows for more creative storytelling, right? And lessens the burnout for the viewer, but also the writers. They're not under so much pressure. They can write their best work and just be done with it. Can't really do that now. Well, you couldn't really do that when we were focused on those longer seasons, I should say.
But I mean, the U.S. is kind of built upon co-opting things
and then claiming them as their own.
The UK did, and then claiming them as their own.
Well, both the UK and the US are good at that. We're both really good.
That's what we do. We just, you guys do that. We just started doing that in the United States. It's revolutionary, right?
We like to colonize things. We're both very good at that.
I've talked on somebody else's show about the fact that with music and media, in all forms of media, the UK and the US have always had this. It's almost like if you're on like a seesaw or something, it moves up and down, and so. Sometimes something that happens in America will influence something in media, television, film, or music, or whatever in the UK, and then vice versa. You've always had that throughout the decades, I think.
So would you say that the United States and the UK are like Deep Space Nine and Babylon 5?
Well done. Well done.
Wow, I've got to work out which is which now. Oh dear, UK is probably Babylon 5.
That's a very British thing to say.
That is a very British.
Thank you very much.
Aww. Yeah, where we're Americans, we're bred to be ignorant and pompous. We're very good at that.
Yeah, it comes at birth. You get it at birth.
I'm now thinking about your ex-president.
No.
Too soon.
What are you talking about? The election isn't over yet.
Of course, it's not over yet because it was all rigged. Dear me. So, what about the music or any clips? What's your take on clips or music in your show?
We would love to do music, but we pay for this out of pocket, so we don't do music. We think Nick loads.
We do royalty-free music. Nick has been using.
I'm going to pull up the guy we use because I want to give him a shout out.
A couple artists who have pretty good royalty-free stuff.
Royalty-free music
on the internet, and we've just started loading clips. It wasn't an option in our previous setup, but now it is an option and something that we can do, and we will be utilizing more.
Yeah, you'll hear in our most recent episode that's been posted, Kai Wynn and her My Child quite a bit
over and over.
Wow.
My Child.
But so up to this point, I have used a website called silvermansound.com, and it's an artist. His name is Shane Ivers, and I've used him almost every single week. And it's royalty-free music. He just asks that you give him credit, and if you are able to donate, he likes donations as well. But I found that he has so much diversity in the musical selections that he has that you can pretty much do anything in there. And there's been times where we've tried, we've experimented with putting in licensed music clips, but that gets into such a tricky area, right? Because first of all, when are you going to get that letter in the mail saying you violated copyright? But also, if you ever want to monetize something, that gets really tricky. So we've tried to stay away from licensed stuff.
Okay, I find that interesting because the two actors from Voyager who do their own podcast, they don't use clips or anything from the shows either. Yeah, and it's probably for the same exact reason, right? They worry about, especially if they're actors, they're very familiar with the contracts that are signed, and
They're part of the acting guild, so they're probably on top of that stuff and really cognizant of staying within their legal limits.
And as far as our show as a whole, I don't think not having clips from the show has been a detriment at all. I think, our conversations hold enough water, start to finish, that it just hasn't been, it wouldn't seem natural to just drop in clips. But last week, having just maybe little drops here and there, like a phrase like "my child" or something like that, for comedic effect is fun. It is fun.
I think it abuses us more than anything.
Yeah. But as far as a conversation, I mean, I wouldn't think that playing a clip to, prompt a discussion, it just isn't something that we need to do, because we generally just talk
because
all
we're
the time.
so entertaining without the music.
We have
There's that arrogance.
Our voices are so soothing. We have the best voices ever.
In a way, thinking about it, if you were to do that, you'd be interrupting the natural flow of the conversation that you're having, I suppose.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And, and it makes me think, too, of a lot of those talk radio shows, or like, the shock jocks like Howard Stern, where they have the soundboards and they're constantly hitting clips or whatever. And it just feels very in your face.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can take you out of what you're saying, too.
Yeah.
And that has an effect on me.
Yeah. Agreed.
So you've just made me think that you could possibly do a one-off and do, because Deep Space Nine is actually in the first episode of Voyager.
Yep.
Yep. They launch from DS9. Yep. And
They do.
Going into the Badlands.
And you have a really funny sequence in there in Quark's bar.
I don't remember that. Oh my goodness.
We can YouTube it later.
Yeah, I'll have to look that. Yeah, I don't remember that. So Voyager, for a hot minute there, was my favorite one.
Okay.
And then now it's Next Generation. Right now, if I ranked them, it would probably be Next Generation, DS9. I'm really enjoying Discovery, even though Rob hates Discovery.
I don't hate it.
He hates it. The original series is probably my least favorite by far.
Wow.
Yeah,
He's insane.
I know. I think Enterprise gets pretty solid towards the end.
I would agree with that.
First
Yes,
couple
I'll
seasons
agree
are
with
iffy. Yeah.
They got the problem with Enterprise is that they were a victim of the fact that they got really good towards the end, but it was too late.
Yeah. The ratings were already too low, and they fell victim to the same thing that happened with Star Trek Voyager. Is it was a reset button every single week, and no one wants to watch a show that just resets every single week. Maybe once in a while, give me an episode, one-off episode here and there, but give me an overarching story. Another reason why I loved Battlestar Galactica, and because on Voyager, right? They're in the Delta Quadrant. They're stranded.
Yep.
They're getting beat up every week. But the ship at the beginning of the next episode, perfect condition. Every single week. There's nothing wrong. So it takes you out of the show, right? This is supposed to be science fiction, and they're playing it like science fantasy. And it doesn't work.
Yep. There's that big difference between science fantasy and science fiction. Like you said, science fiction, there's a modicum of reality to it.
Right.
Where you have to think to yourself, like you were saying with Voyager, you think they were beat up in a battle in the previous episode. How did they get repaired that quickly when they can't go back to a starport or starbase and get the repairs they need to be done?
Exactly. Yeah, and they make a point of saying how they have limited resources and they're on their own. Well, shoot, if that's on your own, man, every Federation vessel should go on their own, because they're doing pretty darn good.
Absolutely.
So, the highlight of that show was when they finally did go into that and did that with Year of Hell. They had a 2-parter Year of Hell where the ship just got beat to crap.
Yep.
And originally, I read an article by the writer who said they originally wanted to make that the whole season.
Yep.
But the producers at that time said, no, fans won't go for that. So they made it a 2-parter instead. But, oh, gosh, that would have been a great season. Just the whole season, them getting the crap beat out of them. That would have been good TV.
Yep, I read that as well. That's possibly my favourite, I can't really say episode, but favourite bit of Voyager actually is probably Year of Hell Parts 1 and 2.
Well, it's a great episode about grief. Like, this guy, has this time, this spaceship that can travel through time because he wants to bring his family back from the dead. Like, he's trying to save his family. So he's going into altering time, and everything he's doing is messing it up and making it worse and creating all these sorts of issues. So it's a good episode on how to deal with one's grief, right? And we know ultimately he doesn't deal with his grief. He ends up dying, and everything gets reset. Yeah, I'm sorry, Joe. We ruined it for you. This happened 20 years ago. Get over it. But it's a Voyager episode where they have philosophical and moral implications. And when you go with that, you're always going to have good television. But then they don't always do that.
So, outside of your own show, then, what sort of podcast do you listen to yourselves, Nick?
Well, so right now I'm actually into some of the more the mainline podcasts, right? Like I'm watching Fake Doctors, Real Friends, The Scrubs, or listening to that one. I really enjoy that one a lot. And then I was doing The Office Ladies for quite a while there. I only try to do a couple podcasts at a time because they get a little overwhelming. Like Fake Doctors, Real Friends, I mean, they every episode is dedicated to a new episode of that show, and they're in the 4th season now. So that's 100 episodes. That's a lot of listening time. So right now I'm kind of sticking with a couple of those. I got a lot on the back burner ready to go.
Okay, what about yourself, Rob?
I kind of rotate. I like to listen to them, but my time is not. I don't have a lot of time. So back in the day, I used to love. Kevin Smith used to do a podcast called Fat Man on Batman, and he used to deep dive into the Batman lore, and it was phenomenal at the time. It's not so good as now, but kind of what I'm rotating through is Inside of You and Michael Rosenbaum. I think it's a pretty entertaining show. Like The Fuse, because I'm a huge nerd and love the Mission Impossible film series. And so I listen to that. Plus, they're only like 20, 30 minutes long, so it's very easy to listen to. Fake Doctors, Real Friends. If you've ever listened to our show, we basically give that show a hand job. So it's just fun. I love Scrubs, and it's probably one of my favorite. It probably is my favorite sitcom of all time. There's a friend of mine does film school janitors. Bill Burr cracks me up, so I'll listen to him when I can. There's a local sports show called No Filter Sports, and another one called No Bullshit News. Yeah. And I just started listening to you about a week ago.
Oh, thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
You've listened to some good episodes, hopefully.
The one I listened to most recently was the one where you interviewed the guy. I can't think of the name of the frickin' podcast network, but he has a whole chain of episodes. One's political, one's his mom's cooking show. But that was really entertaining. I really enjoyed that one.
Yep, that's Amalfi Media, that one.
Bam, there it is.
Yep.
Oh, wow. I forgot to add Black Alert. I really like that podcast.
Come on, you were stealing my thunder, man.
Oh, did you? Oh, gosh, I forgot. I've been listening to that one a lot.
He's totally Battlestar Galactica, him over there.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've listened to Black Alert yet, but it's a really great Star Trek podcast.
Right, okay.
I listen to a lot of indie podcasts. I have some friends who have podcasts.
It's because I'm kidding.
The Infectious Groove podcast is a friend of mine. Their music discussion week to week, very informative, fun. I listen to Good Pods Don't Have Long Names,
which is a long name.
Yeah, it's all right. That's just general chat about nonsense. Black Alert, I love Black Alert. It's a great.
I already said that one. You can't have it.
But I was going to say it anyway. I like political podcasts too, true crime, things like that. The Muck podcast is one that's kind of true crime and political at the same time.
I want to get more into some of the other Star Trek podcasts out there. Like I know there's the Us Sisters podcast. I know there's Black Alert. There's a bunch of them out there that I want to try to listen to as myself.
Like
Star Trek Rewind.
Yeah. Like I said, Spotlight is a really good one. They're really good. And the Delta Flyers, that's an interesting one. The Voyager one, because you're looking at that from the perspective of the two actors that were in it.
Yeah, that's Robert Duncan McNeil, right? And then Garrett Wang.
Wang.
Robert Duncan McNeil, the best thing he ever did was not Voyager; it was the show Chuck.
Yeah. Whatever. Yeah. We're not going to get into that.
Yeah. But he's got quite a history as Robert Duncan McNeil, especially for directing these days.
Yes, he does.
He's a really busy television director.
Producing. Yep. Good for him.
So, what advice would you give to anybody starting out in podcasting for the first time?
Just do it.
Yeah. That's great. You know what? If you want to do it, do it. And if you're passionate about it, your passion will come across on the show.
Yep. Just, if you have an idea, just do it.
I think for me, it's just have fun with it. I'm not doing this for money because we make no money. Actually, we're in the hole quite a bit. But I just have fun with it. Do something you love.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's really important that you be sincere. You know, don't get on your podcast and don't try to put on your radio personality.
Right.
Don't try to pretend to be something you're not. Be authentic and be real, because that will shine through every time, and listeners will hear that and they'll appreciate that.
Authenticity goes a long way.
Yeah, huge. I mean, my favorite podcasts are always ones where I can tell there's real friendship in there, and I can tell it's real banter and it's not scripted banter. So like those are the ones where I'm endeared to them. Like I'm hooked because of that. Because
every single show that I just named has incredible banter and incredible chemistry between the hosts.
Right.
I think it's part of the reason we like Fake Doctors, Real Friends a lot, because those two cats are great friends, and it comes through.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have guy love.
Absolutely.
And I think, not to toot our own horn, but I think that's part of the reason that, I mean, we're not successful, but I think our show works in its own, right? I mean, we're not a widespread, we don't get, tons of listeners, but what we do, I think, works well in this setting.
Yeah.
Because we're authentic. It's just the three of us, we're friends, we're having a conversation, and none of us are trying to outdo one another. We're just having fun.
He said
doing it. And we were trying to do one another, just not outdo.
I've said to other people that do shows where the presenters are so coming from a different angle that I think that works perfectly in shows, because you're looking at Deep Space Nine. So anybody that's coming and listening to your show, they might be somebody who's listened to the show, watched the programs like I have from back in the day. So they've got that history with it. Or you might have somebody who's watched the odd episode but not really got into it that much and just dipped here and then. Or you got somebody like Joe that's never watched it before. So all of you are catering for those different points of view.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of why it works so well. Is there's varying levels of fandom, knowledge, and experience, not only in Deep Space Nine, but in Star Trek in general, and in science fiction in general, right? Yeah. And so we get all of these different viewpoints, but at the same time, our conversations aren't so in the know, Star Trek wise, where you can listen to it and kind of follow along without even having to watch the episodes, right? I mean, because we give a synopsis, so we're going to tell you what kind of happened in the episode, but then when we discuss it, we're going to do it in a general sense that it's kind of farther reaching than just the Star Trek universe or fandom.
Absolutely. So where can people find your show, and how can they get in touch with you?
You can
go ahead.
You can find us on Apple, Spotify. We're Anchor.
Anchor, yeah. Google Podcasts. Pretty much any of the major platforms we're there. Just search Keeping Up with the Cardassians. You can also follow us on Twitter at Cardassians Pod. Rob runs our Instagram.
Keeping_up_Cardassians. We also have a MySpace we actually don't use.
Just for fun.
Just for fun we did.
Wow.
Yeah, just for fun. Not we don't maintain it.
Oh, there's a Facebook page, Keeping Up Cardassians, and then there's Pornhub. Just kidding.
Coming soon.
Not pun intended.
I will not be participating in that.
Yeah, you will.
I will not be participating.
But yeah, you can get us on any of the major podcast platforms, and we're pretty active on Instagram and Twitter.
Absolutely,
as I've noticed. So the title of the show, though, that's fabulous. Who came up with that and thought of the play on the Keeping Up with the Kardashians?
That was my first. That was my first gift to the show. Was the name? It was after the first or second time we recorded, and I think it was after the second time because that's when Nick and Rob decided that they wanted to include me permanently and become a 3-person show.
He's lying. He just shows up.
And before it was called the Nick and Rob Hour, right? And now it's not just Nick and Rob, so they needed a new name. We had a quick text conversation, and I think within the first 30 seconds that I knew what a Cardassian was, I'm like, why is this show not named it already?
Yeah.
And I said it, and they were just like, "That's perfect.
That's perfect.
We're going."
Right. Because originally when we named it, it was we were just using a temporary placeholder. We didn't really care for.
We never settled on anything.
We never settled on anything. And
Nick didn't like any of my suggestions.
Well, and originally we didn't know if we were going to branch out after this to something else. So we wanted to try to keep our name generic. But when you have something as good as Keeping Up with the Cardassians, it's like, you know what, screw it, go for it. Yeah. So we went for it.
And I mean, hopefully by the time Deep Space Nine runs its course and we've ended that run, and maybe we decide to do another Star Trek show, or we're doing another something in science fiction, we will, our show name will have been kind of established enough where it's not just Star Trek.
We go from 5 listeners to 10.
Hey, if we're doubling our listener base, I'm happy with that.
Yeah, we're doing pretty good.
Well, you have got Cardassians in the Next Generation as well.
That's true. That's true. And I think they were actually in Voyager.
Seska was Cardassian.
Yeah.
Yes, Seska was a Cardassian. Yep.
There you go.
Yep.
Yeah.
Although you don't know that until later on in the first season, so you've spoilt that now.
Just ruined it for Joe.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Joe just ruined everything.
I know. Joe's going to know now that she isn't really a Bajoran.
Yeah.
Did you know that he was dead all along in The Sixth Sense?
These guys, I mean, they ruin everything for me.
Oh, don't. I went to go and see The Sixth Sense with a friend of mine at the cinema, and I'm sat there and I just suddenly turned to my friend, and louder than I intended to be, I just turned to my friend and I said, "Bloody hell, he's dead."
This was the first time you saw it, you said that?
This is the first time I saw it, and I just sort of clicked in my head, and I just thought, that guy's dead. Because you realise that there's no interaction between him and anybody except for the lad.
Yeah, exactly. It was really well done. And then M. Night Shyamalan decided that every movie had to be like that, and that kind of hurt him.
Yeah.
Yes, he did.
M. Night Shyamalan is good for one viewing. And then his movies kind of lose a little bit.
I can watch Unbreakable and Split 100 times over.
Unbreakable is really good.
Those are a little different.
I actually don't think Signs was bad.
Neither do I.
I mean, there's some big issues with it. Like, these aliens are basically allergic to water, but they're harvesting humans who are
70% water.
Of water.
Yeah.
So, there's issues, but it's a solid film.
I got a question for everybody.
Joe, your interview.
I'm taking over for just one question. Okay. Joe, your answer to this question is to be very, very narrow. So, favorite episode of Deep Space Nine? Go.
Do you want me to answer first?
Whoever answers first.
Okay, so I have two. One is my actual favorite, and one is probably for sentimental reasons. My actual favorite episode is The Wire.
Okay.
From this latest season 2.
Wow.
The Garrick addiction episode. I thought it was fantastic. For sentimental reasons, Duet is probably my favorite. Just because it was the one that hooked me, and it's a fantastic episode. I mean, it's phenomenal television.
Me?
Where?
I'm not as good with the names of the episodes. I still think Duet is up there for me. Duet is easily one of my favorite ones. Then I'm also going to have to go.
You can edit this, right?
Yeah, I don't. This is tough.
See, it's easier for me because I only have 2 seasons.
Mark, can you name yours off the top of your head while Nick is looking?
I'll give you 2 episodes, but Joe won't know these. So I will go with, is it Siege of AR-58?
Great episode.
And is the other one, It's Only a Paper Moon?
Oh, yeah. I know that we kind of talked about that one earlier.
Yeah, with Nog, getting over his PTSD.
Yep, I think Joe got his headphones off in time.
Yeah.
Mine, actually, the reason I love this show so much, and the reason I try to like convert people to Deep Space Nine so much is because of one episode, and it's my favorite episode of television ever, is The Visitor.
Yes, with Tony Todd.
Yep.
Yeah.
That episode just was. It was right down my alley. It talked to me like the deepest song, and it just was. When we get to it, I'm not even sure I'll be able to speak about it.
Even the interaction between Cisco and Avery Brooks and Tony Todd in that, even that's lovely as well. It
was just everything about that episode was just so. It has Garrett's daughter in it, but the actor's daughter. So it's that's fantastic. I think Nick's ready for us.
I'm not.
No?
I just really right now the only one I can really I did so if we're gonna go off of our 2 seasons, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm only just trying to go off of our rewatch so far. So I'm limiting myself to season 1 and 2. I really do think Paradise is up there for me. Because the amount of questions that came out of that episode. So Paradise and Duet.
Right, well, that's that answered then. Anyway, thank you very much, guys, for talking with me today.
Thanks for having us, man. This was a lot of fun.
This was a lot of fun.
Thanks for putting up with us being long-winded.
That's okay. I've got a long episode ahead to edit. Thank you very much, and thank you everybody for listening, and hope you listen again to another episode of Pods Like Us. Got 2 of you together on the same feed.
Yeah, 3 of us actually.
Yep,
3 of us, blimey.
Yeah.
Can you hear all 3 of us?
I can, yes.
Wonderful.
There we go.
Wonderful. We're playing with our new soundboard, so
technology is the greatest and the worst.
Yeah, very much so.
Yes. Yeah. That's true. I wish they'd do some technology to update Deep Space Nine and put it out on Blu-ray.
Hell yeah! Now you're talking.
Yeah, there was a few clips, HD clips that were leaked not too long ago, and they looked really nice.
They looked really good.
Absolutely, yeah. I still need to watch the
the documentary.
What They Left Behind.
Yeah.
I went to the theater by myself to go watch that because Nick wouldn't watch it with me.
No?
I do remember that. You did ask me to go with you.
I sure did.
Will you tell him kick rocks? Get the hell out of here.
He's a nerd.
And then a few weeks later started a podcast on the show.
I know.
Go figure. So you weren't interested before then, or you just, about Deep Space Nine, or were you, but you just didn't want to go and watch the documentary?
I think he was busy in all fairness to Nick. Because Nick is a Star Trek guy.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I'm a big fan of Deep Space Nine, and Joe over there, he is a Star Trek virgin, so his Star Trek expands to season 2 of Deep Space Nine.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe 3 episodes of the original series.
Yeah.
But that's it.
Wow. What have you done with your life?
Nothing apparently.
We tell them that all.
I've missed out on so much.
I feel bad because I've still got a few episodes of the latest Discovery to watch.
Yeah.
Well, I've got every episode of the original series, Next Generation, Enterprise, Voyager, every show. I still got 5 seasons of Deep Space Nine.
And a ton of movies.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
Yes.
a ton of movies.
I've only seen.
He's only seen one movie. He's seen Star Trek 2. That's it.
Yeah, we made him watch it.
Wow. Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I did.
Good.
I did. I was instructed to skip the first one, skip the motion picture, and go right to number 2. Yeah. And it was good. I mean, I don't feel like I missed out on anything, or I wasn't lost. I mean, I'm familiar with the characters because they're larger than Star Trek. It's pop culture, really.
Right?
So
Absolutely.
I'm familiar with that. So
It's a pop culture thing, a bit like, what is it they say? The most lied about film that people have seen is The Godfather, I think I've heard.
Really?
Most people lie about having seen that.
Yeah.
I lie about it all the time.
All right.
I haven't seen it.
No?
Yeah.
Are you lying?
one of 3. No, I'm not lying. My dad bought me the DVD set for Christmas one year.
Yeah.
And I spent, I had no friends, so I watched. I spent the entire weekend watching it. I mean, they're like 9 hours each.
Yeah, that's long. It's long.
Coppola, he didn't cut it. There's nothing on the cutting room floor. You could eat off that floor. There's nothing on that floor.
Yeah.
There were actually a lot of bits clipped out of the first 2 films.
Was there?
Yeah, because I've got the big set that's got all that's got all that in it. Yeah. But the first 2 films, I mean, I know my mum actually read the book, The Godfather, before seeing the film. Funnily enough, and she said there's a heck of a lot that's actually missing out of the films that's in the book. Surprisingly, for such long films, there's a heck of a lot in the books. But she said that in a way, to her, it's one of those cases where actually the film is better than the book, because the book because in making the film, Coppola actually got rid of what my mum sees as superfluous and not necessary elements.
Okay.
In a way.
This is the first time I knew or heard that it was a book before. I didn't know that.
I don't think I knew that either.
I did know that too. I didn't read the book though. I didn't read the book. I've seen the movies.
If the movie's 7 hours long, I don't want to read the book. War and Peace.
Yeah, you could beat someone with those books. Those are weapons.
They are.
They are. They could seriously hurt somebody.
Yeah.
So thanks for having us to inviting us. This is going to be. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, me too. This will be a lot of fun.
Yep, it's going to be a lot of fun to actually geek out with somebody that wants to hear me talking about Star Trek.
We're okay with that.
Yes, we are.
Game. We're game. Some of us are bigger nerds than others. Rob, looking at
I was
me.
to say, who's the biggest nerd here? Because
I'm a pretty big nerd.
it's a toss-up.
Just get me started on Battlestar Galactica, and we're going to be here all day. All day.
Never heard of that show.
Never heard of it.
Never heard of it?
No.
Oh.
No, I'm just kidding. That's a joke.
I'm
That's a
just
joke.
adding that to the notes for later.
Oh, nice.
Here we go.
Nice.
Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah. The best sci-fi show ever created.
70s or noughties?
No, reimagined. 2000s.
Ronald D. Moore.
Ronald D. Moore, yeah.
Yes, the Star Trek man.
Yes, sir.
Yes, exactly.
Deep Space Nine man.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
The Klingon guy.
Yes. Is there anything about the modern that I don't particularly like, that they've messed with the Klingons? I liked the way that they were.
Yeah.
When they went into like the Next Generation.
The Discovery
era and
one?
whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Not the originals from the original series, because it was just people that were,
Right.
makeup. Yeah.
Right.
But, so it's Nick Bonsky, yeah,
Yes, sir.
and who else are the other 2 again?
I'm Rob.
And I am Joe.
Rob Reed.
Oh, sorry, Rob Reed.
Yeah. No, they both, they're like Madonna. They just,
Prince, man.
or Prince. There you go.
No, I'll go with Madame. I can do the Madonna of this group.
Okay, so I've got Nick Bonsky, Rob Reed, and Just Joe.
Madonna.
Joe,
Just Joe.
yeah.
Joe's or Just is his first name.
Yeah.
Yes.
I have a question for you, Marv.
Go on.
So I was listening to one of your shows a little while back.
Oh dear, I'm sorry.
And you were you're from the Nottingham area.
I am, yes, yeah.
How close are you to Nottingham?
How close am I to Nottingham? 24 miles.
So you're pretty close because my wife's family is all from Nottingham.
Okay.
And I had to ask her a question. I said, throw something at me that he may know or something a little more obscure. So she said, tell him to meet me for a pint at the ye old trip to Jerusalem. Does that ring a bell at all?
Wow, yes it does. Yes, it does. Yeah, that's how old is ye old Jerusalem? The pub. It's a lot very old, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. So
Well, I suppose it would be. Yeah.
with her family being from over there, I was like, hey, I can use this to my advantage as soon as I heard that.
I think it's the oldest public house in England. I think.
Really?
I think so. And it's kept the same name. I would have thought as well.
I'm actually gonna look the place up later.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
It is. Yeah.
Have you guys ever been there? Been over?
Chris, my wife has. I have not.
Have you thought about coming over to Nottingham for your to find out about your wife's family, or just
Yeah, well, yeah, definitely. She loves to visit family over there. She still has family over there. So we get over there. She'll get over there again and invite me maybe one time.
One time.
Wow.
Stuff you away in the luggage.
Yeah.
You're a pretty big guy, so she might have to check you.
Yeah, exactly.
If you get bored, we might have to record a 1-to-1 live in another area of the pub together.
I don't need to get bored to do that. Just give me a beer and let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm there.
I'll talk your ear off.
My ear's ready for that.
All right. Especially if you give me nerd things, I'm good.
Absolutely.
A nice old bar, nerd talk, beer.
That's heaven.
That's the definition of manliness right there.
Yes. It sounds very busy
It is.
where you are.
Well, we have children hanging out so that we could actually be together. I can yell at them in a moment.
Yeah, we're gonna have to yell at them. Just shush them. They've been good up to this,
Yeah.
up to now,
Yeah.
actually.
Shut up, we're busy.
Yeah, we've never had a problem with them until today. Like they realize we're having a.
What's the return policy?
Yeah, I don't know.
Has anyone ever checked?
No, I've tried.
Walmart will take anything back.
I've tried.
You don't even have to have a receipt, nothing. Just take it in.
Yeah.
Don't have to have a box. You could use it.
Mm-hmm. That's true. That's true.
Wow.
I'm gonna take my kids to Walmart.
30-day return policy. Let's do it.
I could think of some family members to do that too.
Yeah.
Can't we all?
Most definitely.
I might just trade them.
Absolutely.
I might just trade them all in. Just give me a new set.
The mulligan.
Over the last 4 years, I've added a lot of family to that want to return list.
Yeah.
Dear me. Okay, we'd best get started, I suppose.
Yes,
I know it's
sir.
super late for you.
It is. It's now. Ooh, what time is it now? 10 to 12 or just after? 5 to. Crikey. Here we go.
Wow.
Okay. Is there anything that we need to touch on, or do you think we've got everything?
We got
We
everything.
got everything. I think we talked enough.
I think we
for
got
it.
everything and more.
So do I. I think it was a good chat. I enjoyed that a lot.
Yeah.
Us too. You'll have to be on our show when we get to a future episode
We'll
you're interested in.
Your favorite episodes. We'll have to bring you on as a guest.
Yeah.
Ooh, that
Yeah.
would be great. I would love
Yeah.
to do that. I'll
So
have
we'll
to give
stay
them
in
a
touch.
rewatch as well. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, we're starting season 3 next week, so just keep an eye on it. If there's an episode, I think we have one guy coming on the 20th.
Yeah.
Another friend of ours.
Mhm.
But yeah, you see an episode down the road that you're interested in, just let me know and hit me up on Instagram again, and we'll arrange it.
Yep. And if you want to do a crossover, Liam and Matt from Spotlight are always game for being on other people's shows.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's good to know.
this is fun. I had a lot of fun.
I had a lot of fun too.
Me too. And if you want to try a new, I know one of you was mentioning about. You mentioned about Mission Impossible, Spy Hards. That is a really good show about spy films.
Yep, they're friends of ours. They're friends of ours.
Joe was telling me about that, so I might do that because I love that series except for 2.
Yep, I love spy films.
Me too.
As well, very much.
Always been a sucker for those.
Yeah, me too. I don't mind that they've all got the same tropes here and there. It just works.
It works, and it works over and over again, and that's okay.
It does.
That's how you know it's good, if it can work over and over again.
Yeah.
That's true. Yep. And Star Trek's full of tropes. So.
Well, sure it is.
They work over and over.
Yep.
Mirror Universe, anyone?
Yes, Mirror Universe, Naked Time, and The Naked Now.
Yes.
Yep.
Absolutely. Anyway, thank you guys. I'll let you get on now, and that was brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
Get some sleep.
Thank you.
Yeah, get some sleep.
Take care. Thank you.
Take care.
Take care.
Bye.
It is. It's now. What time is it now? 10 to 12, or just after? 5 to. Crikey. Here we go.